Hey, it is your buddy, Peace and Harmony with you here today. Much love going out to all the empowered harmonizers. And we're zooming in and focusing in a little bit more in depth in terms of understanding the covert narcissist manipulation pattern, especially going into the malignant narcissist, the psychopathic, even getting that severe. What are some patterns that can tip you off or give you a red flag that you're in the midst of someone who is narcissistic, psychopathic, someone who is not acting in your best interest? And to manipulate, when we talk about these personality types, is to cause fear, engender fear in their target, to cause a feeling of lack or insecurity in their target. So really one of the age-old, centuries-old tactics is that of creating fear and intimidation to get other people into the freeze, the fawn, the paralysis analysis, the feeling that you are less than and that you are in a fearful state. So it might be fear of losing them, creating the fear of losing your job, creating the fear of losing the relationship, fear of losing the house, your health. They are going to promulgate and prey on this tendency or this feeling of discomfort, that they create this discomfort in their targets. And so when we talk about the manipulation, we're talking about trying to get control, and not only control, but to the degree that it's exploitative and not in the best interest of the individual. So you can have positive control, like a teacher has of a class where they have control of the classroom and they're trying to learn a subject, their ABCs, their 1, 2, 3s, so that they can live in the world. And then there is negative manipulation, which is causing a sort of entrapment. So it literally is like setting a trap, a booby trap for you to fall into and then basically spiral downward into, really an abyss. And it becomes very scary when people find themselves at rock bottom or at the spiraled bottom of this abyss and they realize that this person really is not there for them in their best interest, and to see that it's all a facade, a mask. Particularly more intensive when we talk about someone who is psychopathic. When we talk about someone who is psychopathic, it's someone really who is an anti-social personality, meaning against, social, against the social order. So even though on the outside they might appear as if they're, do-gooders or leaders or champions or, the manager or the great father figure, the beautiful wife, on the outside they can play this role, better than, the Emmy Award winners. It's just how they get through their day. It's because inside there's something vastly cold. Inside there's something vastly dead. Inside there's something vastly non-emotional. They don't experience emotions the way that the rest or the normal people do, i.e. 99 to 96% of the population. They don't experience emotions, they don't experience empathy, and they don't experience remorse or guilt. If you don't experience emotions or remorse or guilt, then you are experiencing something else. And for the psychopath who exploits and takes advantage of, they are all in their mind about how they can manipulate the system, manipulate others to get whatever it is that they want. Money, the corner office, the corner house, the truckload of men, the truckload of women, the material possessions, just to do others in. So sometimes they oftentimes have also, my earring is coming out here. It's got this long wire. And so they, so oftentimes then, people who are psychopathic, they oftentimes then derive this pleasure from hurting others. So to see others go down gives them a boost of what you might consider adrenaline or, a feel-good hormone like a serotonin or a dopamine burst. So these individuals have a high sensitivity to dopamine, which is that reward system. And it also tends to cause a lack of judgment, a lack of, morality. and then a reduction of an increase of testosterone as well. So they're really sort of on a high path to getting whatever it is that they want without stopping. So, and if you don't experience remorse or regret, you don't have those brakes in the car, so to speak. You don't have that inhibiting you. Just think what it is like for these individuals to live uninhibited and, above the law. They're seeming that they feel more smarter than, more intelligent than, more a leader, more in power. So do you see how this creates a pattern of manipulation that they would use all the time? Because this is who they are. You cannot instill them with emotion. You can't instill them with guilt. You can't instill them with regret. There is something very dead and empty inside. And once you've witnessed this, it's very terrifying because this person really is, a disembodied individual. They don't have any warmth inside. Literally, it's like Antarctica frozen over. I mean, you can't even measure it with a thermometer. It is dead inside. So, and these individuals, this is what they do to manipulate. They cause this fear, which they don't experience, but they see the reaction of others. So they're very keen observers of the rest of society and how people react. So in other words, since they don't have this emotional content, they have more neurons going into that manipulation, into that power, into that scoping out and observing and scanning, an environment, scanning a workplace, scanning a family to see who is the weakest prey, the most vulnerable, the one who's going to be the most shaking in their boots, the most vulnerable they're going to exploit. Furthermore, also, they're going to go after those people who are on the top or in their finest moments, or who would be like the greatest trophy, kill, the greatest trophy elephant, to slaughter and basically take down. It's like, back in the day, those people who would have the big halls of taxidermy with all their hunt, with their moose and their elk and their tigers and their lions and things, they'd have, that in their trophy room. So it's real. The psychopath, in my mind, is very much like in the trophy room of collectors of those people who they have devastated. It is very scary. So they create though. So now, I have been, studying and working with this type of population for several years and decades now. So I can be separate and observe. But a lot of people find themselves in the midst and they don't understand the trap, the fear trap that these people set up in your mind that goes like a tilt-a-whirl in your mind, like a out of control, what do you call it? Circus, or, amusement park, merry-go-round ride that's just like, torturous, where it sends your thoughts circling and circling and circling and terror, and you can't, stop. You can't stop that roller coaster. You can't stop that tilt-a-whirl, tilt-a-gig, whatever it is. It's very scary for those people who have fallen into the fear trap that has been set by the malignant narcissist, the covert narcissist, or the psychopath. They will plant seeds of fear in you. And oftentimes, it's once they have your imprinting, once they have, you in that energetic give or take, and they're, going like this energetically with you, and there's this quote unquote trust, which really should be lack of trust, but you don't know not to trust them until you're further down the path and you've exploited them, or you're, onto the psychopathic manipulation and really sort of understanding what the cutout of these people really looks like and the composite of who they really are. So once you understand really the severity and what it is you're dealing with, it's very difficult not to take that seed of fear. It's very difficult to not take that fear bait, but the problem is they will plant that seed of fear in your heart. They'll plant that seed of fear in your being like a sponge. So you're open to them, and like a sponge can absorb liquids, if you take a dry sponge and put it over a wet counter, it'll pick up that water, correct? Well, my feeling is that the human body is very much like the same way when you're open and trusting of someone. You've got these open pores, you've got these open, areas. You're open to this person, and you become really open, widely open to these people when you're really addicted. You become all in, all open. In fact, you're in that self-sacrifice mode where you're just letting everything go. All your values go, all your morals. You're giving into their high-risk advances. You're going for that preening that they're doing to you when they're cultivating that seed. So it's like they're massaging the soil once they've put it in you. And they're seeing, they're watching, they're scoping you out for your reactions of fear and love. So they're coating that seed of fear with love. They're coating that seed of fear with you need me. They're coating that seed of fear with hyper arousal and sexual advances. They're coating that seed of fear with distraction and constantly thinking about them. They're coating that seed of fear with being interruptive of you when you should be working or sleeping or eating or taking your kids somewhere. They're coating that with this then highly addictive. It becomes like a pill or formulation, that creates this neurochemical reaction within you of fear and hyperarousal, need and repulsion, attraction, yet, you're harmful of yourself. So it becomes this very, very lethal chemical concoction in your being and in your psychology, in your mindset, because they will cause a distorted thought process, which once they have understood, so on a very intense level, because the psychopath, once again, because they don't have areas of their brain that are reacting emotionally, and they're in that, that they're in a whole nother dimension. They're in a whole nother place energetically. So they are then using the area of their brain to figure out how they can get a reaction and this attraction. So they're creating a deception, which is very, very strong. A deception which is designed to take your attention in a specific way. So it's very deliberate and calculated and contrived. Like we hear about a con man or a con woman. How did they ever fall for this? So they're creating this attraction, and then they're seeing how they create fear. So they have more areas of their brain which are open to and giving them the ability to manipulate and control the reactions of others. So they literally are like interspecies predator, where they're planting an area for you to go walk and then fall into the trap. So it's like, I call it a booby trap, because it's like a big vast abyss where you fall in emotionally and psychologically and spiritually, but they've coated it over with, hay. In other words, they've covered it over with sand. They've covered it over with mud and sand and hay. And you're thinking you're walking into a relationship, you're walking into their trust, you're walking into a relationship, and then you expose them, and then it's like bam, the straw that you thought was the foundation just gives away, and you're like, OMG, I've just fallen, like 2 miles into the pit of earth, and then you're completely alone, you don't know how to get out, you can't see the light, you can't feel your body, you can't see what your life purpose is anymore, you can't see what your life mission is, you are terrified. This is what the setting up and the fear trap and the seed of fear is like with the malignant narcissist and the psychopath. And so that epiphany, that exposure might come either later in life, after, you've been married to this person and you realize you're entrapped and you're at the bottom, or you might be entrusting of this person as a family member or a business partner, and you just realize that, you've just seen the mass drop. You've just seen the energy just sort of collapse in on itself. So you've seen the metamorphosis, the metamorphosizing of this person who appears this way, and then all of a sudden their energy goes into the coldness. And so unless you've really experienced this, you don't really know what we're talking about. It's, only those people who have seen the mass drop, who have seen behind, that persona of that psychopath, knows what's lurking underneath. So it's not your typical person. It is not at all what you would consider a person or a human. There's something very, very unalive, very unwarm, very untrustworthy, very not only chameleon-like. It's words can almost not describe. There are not really, common words in the human language to describe this individual, other than someone who is lethal, dangerous, not to be messed with, not to be associated with. But yet they can be in a high associated position, i.e. in your family, i.e. who you've married, i.e. in your workplace, i.e. the leaders in your community, etc. And so it is very important to understand that you have those people who have been like the open vessel to them, who have been very absorptive. So even as children are like a sponge. They're looking up to their parents. Show me this, show me how to do that, show me how to love, show me how to tie my shoe, how do I make toast, how do I make patty cake, how do I do this? So the kids are very open. So if you found yourself in this very open position where you're like a big human sponge, and then you're sucking all that up, oftentimes what you're also sucking up is that seed of fear. You've taken the bait. You've taken it in. It's now become part of you. You've now processing it and digesting it like a toxin that your body needs to get rid of. So the seed of fear can be, I'm going to leave you. I'm going to do this. I'm going to close our bank accounts. I'm going to call your workplace and get you canned. I'm going to call your family members and tell them this about you. The seed of fear, seed of fear, seed of fear. So it can be all sorts of seeds of fear by, just causing that anxiety and that fear that you're going to lose your home, you lose your job, lose your bank account, lose your kids, lose your your reputation, the smear campaign, and then they'll play on that fear seed. So they'll cultivate it and massage it. So oftentimes that seed of fear is planted many times, many seeds of fear. And it can kind of surround you. It can kind of engulf you. In other words, you walked on that emotional minefield, you fell into one, and then you fell into another, and you fell into another. All the while, you thought you were doing this in the name of love, and this person was leading you to the good life, or you could trust them. You absolutely, unequivocally cannot. So it is very, very scary. And so really, the bottom line is that don't take the seeds of fear. Get the seeds of fear out of your being. It is not healthy to be guided by and having those coalesce and promulgate more weeds or plants of your own self-destruction, which is the fear, the anxiety, that chemical reaction where we're highly addicted, the paranoia. It makes you lose yourself, lose self-control, doing things that are out of character. You're checking the garbage, you're checking the parking lot, you're checking the Facebook, you're checking the phone, you're trying to drive and find this, drive and find that, you're literally, coming out of your senses. You need to pull it back in, go no contact. Literally enough is enough. And also remember the lessons learned. So you really need to plant new seeds of love, especially self-love and safety and kindness and gratitude, and work especially on that coming into yourself experience where you're giving yourself safety. Number one, and you need to kind of come to the light, literally the sunshine, literally, bright colored clothes as you can get there, literally feelings of safety. What makes you feel safe? I talk about resensitizing yourself, getting clothes that are comfortable, sounds that are comforting, scents that are uplifting like nang chapa and lavender, taking the warm baths, using Epsom salts, using high touch, feel good things that feel good to the hands, that are cultivating, like working in clay or woods or whatever it is, metals, paints, cooking, going to religious or spiritual support centers, getting some close-knit, true, loving, authentic, genuine love, being around different kinds of people who are very healing in nature. Having foods, consuming foods, teas, soups, stews, highly nutritious healing foods, smoothies, soft eggs, very unstimulating foods, plain toast, these type of things that are soothing to the gut. And if all your senses, resensitizing yourself, including your instinct and your higher consciousness. So not only your five senses, but your sixth and your seventh senses, and healing your aura around you, and then your higher intelligence, living in that role of metacognition that higher self and your lessons learned, taking time for mindfulness, guided meditation. And it's really to understand that this psychopathic individual has perhaps been an experience in your life, so it can drive you closer to knowing your own strengths. And as I said in a previous video, getting closer, like coming into yourself, having that ability to be responsible for yourself. So kind of coming back and reconditioning, reprogramming yourself even stronger, even wiser, even more clear, coming out of that fog of the fear. So these, I hope these are some steps that can help you emerge from that very fearful state to the love state. This is your buddy, Peace and Harmony, with you here today. And I hope that these videos do help. Please share and please subscribe for more great tools, videos, discussion, and support. Peace out.